All right, so we are live on YouTube also. So let's start with the proceedings. So, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Namaste, देवी और सज्जनों और हमारे प्रिय students. Today we have yet another episode of That's Life, and today we have a very distinguished guest with us. We have with us Major General Vikram Dev Dogra, AVSM. Let me introduce General Dogra to all of you. Major General Vikram Dev Dogra, AVSM, was commissioned into the Pune Horse in 1981. He is the recipient of the Sword of Honor for being the best all-round passing out cadet and a gold medalist for passing out first in the Order of Merit. He commanded the Pune Horse 180 Armored Brigade on the Western Front and an infantry division part of a strike corps. He served in various staff and instructional assignments and gained combat experience in Jammu and Kashmir as well as part of United Nations peacekeeping forces in Angola, Africa. The general is a committed sportsman and an adventure enthusiast. He participated in a number of cycling events and cycled from Leh to Chandigarh over 5 of the highest mountain passes, ranging from 13,400 to 17,600 feet, as well as in the northeast of India from Sela Pass at 14,000 feet to Bumla La at 15,400 feet on the Chinese border. A motivational and TEDx speaker. In 2018, he did Ironman Austria at the age of 58 in 14 hours and 21 minutes to become the first serving Indian Army officer and the only general in the world to do so. In July 2019, he once again took on the Ironman competition at Germany and bettered his own time by 41 minutes, completing the grueling race in 13 hours and 40 minutes. He was awarded Ati Vishisht Seva Medal AVSM on 19th March 2019 by the President of India to recognize distinguished service of an exceptional order. So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm so happy to have before us, and we are so honored to have you here, Major General Vikram Dev Dogra, AVSM. Welcome to That's Life.
Thank you so much, Atul. Pleasure to be here.
And I'm also happy to have with me my friend Arun Bhargav and my friend Ashok MS. They are both co-panelists today because seeing that Vikram is coming, everybody was so excited. They wanted to be here, ask questions, and we have members in the audience also, Vikram, who would also be able to shoot questions at us. And remember, audience, the general is going to come out all guns blazing. So, Vikram, the first question to you would be coming from your St. Aloysius friend, Arun. Yes, Arun.
Thank you, Atul. Good evening, Vikram. Good evening, Atul. Good evening, Ashok. It's such a pleasure and nostalgic to be seeing Vikram after 47 years. So we studied together in St. Aloysius in class 7, after which I went away to Ajmer and I was told that Vikram stayed on for a year and then subsequently moved to Mussoorie. And then, so Vikram, it's so nice to have you with us. So we would like to understand, like every other session that we had on this That's Life program, we like to know from people what has been their childhood like and what really inspired you to take on the career roadmap that you followed and became such a successful man. And you have, been a flag bearer for the Indian Army, for the whole Indian subcontinent as such. So over to Vikram. Please share your childhood, your journey right from school to the point that you reached NDA. Over to Vikram.
Thank you. So I was born in a military family. My father was in the army. And I also have four sisters, three of whom were married to into the army.
Wow.
And these sisters are much older than me. So the first two of them got married when I was just about maybe 9 or 10. And when I saw all this uniform, people around me, especially my father, his regiment, you know, the way he used to go for all the three wars which he participated in, 62 with the Chinese, 65 with the Pakistanis, 71 again.
71.
All that left a big impact on me. And from the time I was a young child, I wanted to join the army. I never gave a thought of becoming anything else. And even my family, I'm surprised, but they also never gave a thought that this guy should go somewhere else. A lot of parents aspire their kids to be A, B, and C, but in my house, it was always, he's going to join the army. And that's
that
how
too being the
my
only
journey.
son.
Sorry?
You were the only son.
I was the only son, yes.
Yes. So
Yeah.
that takes a lot of courage and, you know, kudos to the family.
Yeah. So that's how I ventured off to join the army. And the moment I finished my class 11, I joined the NDA, just a month later.
So great.
So, just to ask you, Vikram, you know, you've been in day schools, you've been in a boarding school in Missouri. So how does, your childhood actually get shaped, while you spend time in a boarding school? Do you think it really makes a difference?
It does. It's totally different. Although I would admit that both had their impact on me and both impacts were positive. When I was a day scholar, especially when I was in Delhi, we were in a place called Prince's Park, which is a society for Army officers, Army, Navy, Air Force officers, about 100 houses. And we used to be a bunch of kids who were at the playing field, playing badminton, hockey, football. So that really put me a lot into sports. When I joined the hostel, there was, before I went there, there was this little feeling inside me that I must join a hostel. I don't know why. Today's kids, when I wanted my sons to go to a hostel, they refused. But I had this want to go to a hostel. And so when I went there, I found the kind of independence you get, the kind of experience of being on your own, fortifies you further. So I was impacted by both.
Great.
Wow. And is there anything you remember from your school days which shaped, your thinking, your thought process, your morals, principles, because that is when you actually solidify a lot of things, especially the later years in school. So any incident you can remember, any teacher or any influence?
I cannot put my finger on any single one of them, but I think the three schools that I went to, Xavier's, Aloysius, and St. George's, all of them had a very strict environment. Firstly, they were all boys schools. And therefore, they believed in if you spare the rod, you spoil the child. So I remember getting caned in school, in Xavier's, in Aloysius, also not caned, but slapped. We had a Hindi teacher who was very, very, liberal with his slapping sprees. So I think these kind of incidents made me quite conscientious about what is required to be done and what not. So I was a very, very disciplined cadet in the academy. I never got any punishments because probably this had made sure that I was formed in a manner which, kept me disciplined. I can't think of anything else.
You never broke rules. You learned
didn't.
not to break any rules.
No, I broke rules, but I broke them smartly.
But you didn't get caught.
Yeah, that was taught to me in the hostel.
Excellent. So tell us a little more about your NDA experience.
NDA
And
was, NDA, like you are aware that NDA is an academy where from being a schoolboy, you have to now start developing into a man. And when I joined the NDA, although I had come from a hostel and we used to have a lot of games out there, but I realized that I am physically weak compared to the other boys who come there because some had come from military schools, Sainik schools, all over. And I was not in the first 50% of the course as far as physical activity was concerned. So much so that I was put into the class which required extra PT. Before the games period, after your lunch and before the games period, there was a time for rest where we used to be put through this extra drill of PT. And I worked very hard towards my PT and my physical fitness. And over the first 2 terms, I became very good physically and I started passing even the higher tests. But this had an impact because my academics got neglected. So because I was concentrating so much on the physical aspects. As a result, I got more aligned to the physical part in NDA and my academics dropped. And by the time I reached the 6th term, I was on top of my course. I was the best in physical fitness, marching, outdoors, OL officer-like qualities. But my academics was low, so I passed out 7th in the order of merit. Although I was the academy cadet adjutant, which is the topmost appointment. But I learned a lesson there that you need to draw a balance in life between physical and academics. And then from that, I could implement that when I joined the IMA. So it was a good learning experience, the NDA. It's a unique place. It really breaks you from what you are and makes a man out of you.
And it's all about endurance. You endured those hard lessons. How many people can do that? And if you remember, out of your batchmates, how many would have gone on to do Ironman at the age of 58? What you probably learned there, what you put in there, it stays with you. It is still with you.
True.
So would you like to give a message to the youth about physical fitness? Because today, I think the biggest games they play are PUBG.
So the message about physical fitness is quite obvious. But when I talk of physical fitness to the youth, I speak of being physically fit to carry out your daily routine, in an able manner. You don't have to be obese. You don't have to be, unfit. But it is not that I'm encouraging people to go in for endurance sports.
Correct. I understand.
Endurance is a different matter. Being physically fit is something which is like a hygiene factor. Everybody should be physically fit.
Yes.
And that is essential because, like you said, we all become couch potatoes. Children today are more on social media and stuff like that.
Yes.
And a healthy body is very essential for a healthy mind.
Yes.
So I will encourage every student, every person who's a teenager or beyond to invest in themselves as far as physical fitness is concerned.
And pick up healthy habits and remain healthy for life.
Absolutely.
That I think is very, very important. So Vikram, would you like to tell us a little more about your army experience? You've had varied experiences in the army, something that you can share with us. Because see, I'm very intrigued by the way the army trains its people. There's a huge difference between an army man and a civilian. So, and I've been talking to my, all people I meet who are from the forces. How can we get some part of that training into our curriculum so that our students learn some of the sterling stuff that you guys learn there and follow?
So in the army, as you're aware, it's the human resource which is our primary resource.
Yes.
And therefore, leadership is what our career is all about. And when I say leadership, I talk of being a person whom people will follow without questioning what you're doing.
Excellent.
And therefore, for that, you need to have certain qualities. And I feel the first and foremost quality that is required to be a leader is that you should have high integrity and honesty. People should have faith in you because your personal integrity and honesty is beyond question.
Yeah.
So that's very important. Thereafter comes the other aspects of leadership, which is to do with you should be good at communicating what your vision is to your people, because if they don't understand what you want, they will not deliver what you want. And you must walk the talk. You should not expect people to do things which you would yourself shy away from doing. So you should be leading from the front, and that's how you can be a leader. Must know your men, must interact with them. You must empathize with them, because that empathy will only come when you know them. So what we do in the army is when you join a regiment, the first thing you learn is to open a diary about the small amount of people you have under your command. Like I'm from an armored regiment, which is to do with tanks. And when you join as a young second lieutenant, you have about 17 men in your command, 3 tanks. Therefore, you make a diary and you have every detail about the man out there, his marital status, number of children, his financial background, what is his problems at home, whether he has any land, whether there is any issue at home, aging parents, the works. So that when you are interacting with him, he has a problem, you understand what he wants. So that goes a long way in building confidence. So these are some of the things which I can say will actually lead people to follow their leader. And one thing that we also talk of in the army is Naam, Namak, and Nishan. You must have a cause, and here the cause is for your honor, name, Naam, and Namak to the organization, which is providing for you, starting with your unit, going on to your country. And then the flag, which is your own unit flag and your country's flag. And for these 3 things, you devote your lifetime and everything you have for Naam, Namak, and Nishan. Yeah.
Atul, I have a question for
sure, Ashok.
General. General Sahab, me being a civilian and coming from a technology world, I had a privilege of doing some field trials for GPS equipment with one of the armored regiments out in Ganganagar many years ago in the initial days, 94, 95. And one thing which I saw and I learned was teamwork. Could you kind of elucidate more about teamwork within the military? I mean, what I saw there has, left an indelible mark, and I learned a lot from that experience.
Of course. The army, as you're aware, your life depends not only on your capability, but also on the ability of your comrades. Taking you to an armored regiment, since you spoke of it, the tanks that we have right now have a crew of 3. There's a driver, there's a gunner, and there's a commander. And whilst the commander controls the tank, because he's with the fact that he is placed in a station where he can, look out and he can communicate with other people, it's also the ability of the driver and the gunner, which will lead to the survivability of this tank in a battlefield. Therefore, the cohesion between these 3 has to be very good. That teamwork that you speak of. You sleep together, you eat together, you fight together, you do everything together, irrespective of what rank you are. I, as a colonel, when I was commanding the unit, am on a tank also with a man who's a Jawan and a gunner out there who's also a Jawan, and we were sleeping together in the same bivak at night. There is no question of an officer going and sleeping somewhere else. So that bonhomie that you develop when you do these things together is what we talk of in the corporate, which we develop due to team building and other exercises. But here it is every day. When you work on the tank, if you have to camouflage the tank, all 3 people are required. 2 men can't camouflage the tank effectively. It'll take much longer. So all 3 come in. If you have to load the tank as far as ammunition is concerned, again, all 3 have to come in. Therefore, the officer and the men, that relationship which gets formed due to the necessity of what you're doing, goes a long way in building that team spirit. And that's where the cohesivity comes. Also, another point I would like to mention here is that the army has a very diverse intake. We come from all over the country, and we believe in unity in diversity. You have different languages, different religions, different habits, but when you come together in a unit, you have to operate as a well-oiled machine, all pulling in the same direction. And all that you had behind you, your baggage from where you came, needs to be put away and get you all on the same grid. So that is where the cohesion and the team building plays a very important role.
And the biggest lesson that we can learn is that the boss should also go and get his hands dirty.
Absolutely.
Yeah, be a hands-on person. Get your hands dirty. Be with the team.
Sure.
Yes, I recall very well. We were two of my colleagues were with me. So 3 of us were the only civilians during that particular exercise, and what we saw of the exercises done and the manner in which they were done at all hours of in 24 hours, it never seemed that there was anything called night or day. I mean, things went on at all hard hours. I mean, 3 o'clock in the morning, an exercise takes place, ends up at 5:30, and everybody debriefs at breakfast and is back to the field again. Teamwork was amazing.
True.
So Vikram, another question arises in my mind. See, you have so many men, and army is all about human resource, as you said. Now, when people are there, and even in the steps to building teams, there are always some conflicts that would arise. How do you resolve these conflicts in the army?
Conflicts, like you said, arise everywhere. It is the severity of the conflict which needs to be kept in mind.
Okay.
Minor conflicts are settled on their own. Really, no intervention is required. But conflicts which are inexcusable are insubordination, indiscipline of a severe kind, absent without leave, or overstay of leave. So there is a fine line which a leader must decide, because as far as the Army Act is concerned, everything is punishable. And now if I'm a person who believes that I need to keep punishing people, then I can punish people on any and every incident. But that line between how much and whom, and seeing the background of the situation, and keeping in mind all that, you have to really come to a decision. So, like I said, conflict resolution is always there, and there are always channels, different levels. So, like if it's a very minor thing, then it's done at the level of the NCO, the non-commissioned officer. And then you have the junior commissioned officer. And then you have the young officers. And the commanding officer is the final guy, where all the severe punishments which have to be dealt with severely go to him. And the commanding officer is very powerful in the army. He can sentence a man to 3 months of rigorous imprisonment. One-man court, just one-man court. And if the offense is severe enough, he can throw him out of the army. So with those kind of powers, you have to actually be careful of not, over punishing people. And yet it has to be used as a very effective tool to maintain discipline, which is the hallmark of a good army.
Yeah, those are the deterrents that you have in the
Yes.
form of the Army Act, in the form of your system, where you have people right from NCOs to the CO and even above that. Excellent. So see, the system works. Actually, we need to understand that in the army, the system is supreme. And everybody who has to remain in the system has to behave. That is where the real difference comes. So that's excellent. Now tell us, Vikram, your stint in Austria and Germany. See, 14 hours, 21 minutes. And it's a triathlon. You're doing swimming, you're doing running, you're doing cycling, all three. How do you get this kind of endurance, stamina, will? How did you train for it, and how did you, while you were going through it, what were the thoughts that were whirring through your mind? Did you at any time feel that you should not give up?
I will start by saying that it all starts with the mind.
Yeah.
And I feel that every battle that you win has to be fought twice. First time in your mind, and second on the field.
Yeah.
And so it was in my case when I decided I needed to do the Ironman. I had a big issue to convince myself that I am capable of doing it, because in my mind there were two voices all the while. One which said you can do it, and one which said there's no way you can do it at 58, you'll get a heart attack. And this second voice, which kept telling me I can't do it, was actually reinforced by a lot of other people. Most people around me told me, you're crazy. Don't even attempt it.
Don't do it.
So therefore, the first challenge was to convince myself, and took some time for me to convince myself. Having done that, when I started my training, now
was there, sorry to interrupt, was there anybody who said that go for it, you can do it?
My wife.
Apart from your, okay, my God.
My wife never had any
Excellent.
issue with
That's-
that. So I
Hats off to
asked her
her.
later, I said, you're the
Hats
only
off
one
to
who
her.
never stopped me. I hope everything is okay. So she said, no, I feel that if you want to
That's
do
it.
something, you should go ahead with it.
Yeah.
Hats
So
off
she
to her.
encouraged me. Everybody else, some genuinely were concerned about my going for it. And some, of course, I knew were, they
Yeah,
just
they were
didn't
just-
want me to do it.
Yeah, they were just saying, no, no, no. Can't do that.
Thereafter came the challenge to train for this event because the distances are such 3.8 kilometers of swimming,
Oh my God.
180 kilometers of cycling,
Oh,
and 42.2 kilometers of running. All had to be done one after the other, to be done within 17 hours. And the swim is not in the swimming pool out there, it's either in the lake or in the ocean.
I see.
Yeah.
I see
So this
water.
was, so I had to start training. I had never run 42 kilometers in my life. I had never swum 3.8 kilometers. So when I commenced my training, I felt that this is going to be a long haul and I might quit. And so I came
When
up.
did you commence your training? For the
I started my
2018
training
event?
about a year and a half before the event. So you can say January of 2017.
17, you started training. Okay,
Yeah.
fine.
Actually, it was my birthday on 17
Oh.
January, and I ran my first 7 kilometers. I had never run 7 kilometers also at that time. In the army, we run 5 kilometers, and you run the longer distances when you are a captain. As a general, you don't run cross country. So my wife had given me an iPod as a present on my birthday, and I put that on, and on the treadmill, I ran 7 kilometers. I was very thrilled. I said, wow, I've done 7 kilometers today. And that's when I started my training. And like I told you, I felt along the journey, I thought I might quit. So I used a technique called public pledging.
Okay.
I went onto social media and I announced that I'm going to do Ironman.
Okay.
So when I did that, it trapped me from quitting. It made sure there's no window left open, because now if I quit, all
Yeah,
those
then you're a
guys
quitter.
who, when they read my posts, they must have been cynical. Some people may have
Yes.
laughed.
Let's see what happens.
Some smirked. Yeah. So that trapped me. So I was thereafter doing it for my reputation. I had announced it, my esteem, self-esteem, and my name. Even on the race day, I told my wife, I'll die doing the event, but I won't quit. So that actually kept me in the system. And I think it's a great technique for people who may feel they, might be quitting in something. You can try this public pledging thing. So then I started my training. I had a big issue in training because I was working. I had a job which kept me in office from 9 in the morning to 5:30 in the evening. There was no time. And training for this requires a lot of time. To swim 3.8 kilometers, you need between 1 to 2 hours. 180 kilometers of cycling, 5 to 6 hours, 6 to 7 hours of cycling. And 42 kilometers, 4 to 5 hours. So I devised out of the box schedule. I would come back from office, change, run from 7 at night to 10 o'clock.
Oh my God.
This was thrice a week. Twice a week, same timing, I would swim. And on Saturday nights, I would cycle from 2 a.m. at night to 9 a.m. on a Sunday morning. And why I did it at night was because though I could have done it on a Saturday morning, I had a 5-day week, but there's lots of pollution, traffic, and the summer sun in Delhi, it touches 43, 44 degrees. So at night, it was easier to take care of these problems. But the issue was to stay awake on a bike for 6 to 7 hours. So there were days when I was almost dozing off. But
So
all that
was
work.
there somebody who was accompanying you when you were cycling?
I used to keep a car behind me with a driver.
Yeah, very essential.
So that I had the beams, otherwise you can get hit on a highway.
Yes,
And this
yes.
was on the Greater Noida Expressway.
All right.
That's where I used to cycle. And you do 4 or 5 rounds of that. It's about 48 kilometers, one round, one circuit.
One circuit is 48. Yes, it's 25 kilometers.
Mahamaya, Pari Chowk and back.
Yes, Mahamaya Parichok is around 24, 25
Yeah,
kilometers.
yeah. I know that road, every pothole in it, because I've done it probably over 100 times.
Wow.
So that's how I trained. And slowly, baby steps, putting it 500 meter swim, 1 kilometer, 2, and so on and so forth. In every of these sports, every event discipline, that's how I trained.
But was there any day when you did all of them consecutively?
No.
Because there you had to do everything consecutively. So did you test that part of yourself, that whether you'll be able to go on for 13, 14 hours?
To be honest, I never even did a 42-kilometer run. My first 42 ever was in Austria on race day. Now, the reason for this was that the longer you run, the longer you cycle, and if you do all three together, the recovery time is too long. To recover from an Ironman event, you need 3 months. To recover from a full marathon of 42 kilometers, you need about 2 to 3 weeks. And that is kind of time was not available. Then my 18 months would have gone into a couple of years.
Oh, God.
So I never did 3 of them
All
together.
of them together.
Yeah, I used to restrict my cycling to 150 kilometers, and I did 180 only once or twice. 42 I never did. I kept it to 35 of running. Swimming was the only thing that I did 3.8, and I did it thrice.
That was consistently.
Yeah, because swimming is the first event. And therefore, also there is no way that 3.8 is not adequate to, tire you. You don't need much recovery time, just a day or two and you're back. So I kept it in mind. I did a lot of research on it. I did a lot of study on the nutrition, on the hydration, on recovery, and I put that into practice. It worked well for me.
And what about acclimatization? Because the conditions in Austria are so far removed from what we have in India. So did you do any kind of acclimatization, or you just went for it, or you went a couple of days before the event? And
I was there 5 days earlier.
Okay.
But no acclimatization is required. In fact, people like us who train in the heat of Delhi and pollution here, it was an advantage.
My God.
Now I went to Austria, the temperatures were 24, 25 degrees. Here it was 46.
Really comfortable.
Yeah. And there's no pollution. So my lungs were breathing good, better than ever before.
Feeling better.
Yeah. So it was like an advantage. You from a rarefied oxygen environment, you'd come into a place where there was adequate oxygen for you to recover.
Breathe and
Yeah. So no acclimatization is required really.
And what kind of diet did you have for those 1.5 years before you hit the trail in Austria?
Now the diet is a very tricky part. And whilst you can calculate how many calories you need to consume, you need to see how you can consume it in the food that you like.
Okay.
And that is where the challenge comes. How much of non-veg to have, how much of eggs to have. That only comes by hit and trial. And it took me about 3 months to, trying different kinds of combinations to come to the decision that this is what suits me best. Because you need to digest it and be able to then perform the next day. Like I said, I researched a lot. I had no nutritionist. But I found there were some foods which are very essential, like beetroot is very good, sweet potato. These are all good for endurance events. An amla a day gives you great amount of vitamin C, which helps. And the protein and the carbs and vitamins. So some supplements are required. And I also found that what I could eat orally was not adequate to sustain me with the kind of exercise I was doing. And therefore, I had to use protein supplements. Yes, yeah. I took in some whey protein. I was having 3 of them a day because I found that the recovery wasn't taking place. So it took about 3 months to come to this conclusion, and then it was a steady scene after that. But the more important part is nutrition on race day, because that's one day when you can't be consuming solid food. All the blood which goes from your body is going into your muscles. And there isn't any blood going to your stomach for digestion. So, and whatever you consume on race day has to be practiced in your when you are training. There comes the challenge because there are these protein gels which are available commercially, and that with some kind of nourishing drinks. Then you have electrolytes which are draining out and with your sweat. So you to prevent electrolyte imbalance happening, you have to have hydration tablets so that the salts can be replenished. All that again requires a lot of fine tuning so that on race day you don't have anything going wrong. Because if what's happening is you are consuming many more calories than your body can ingest. And that's where the training comes in. you cannot ingest more than 240 calories an hour. So one protein gel, for example, is 100 calories. That means in an hour, I can have only 2. And the balance 40, I may get out of the drink I'm having for my hydration. If I take more than that, then it bloats up the tummy and you get nausea. And you can also, get into the thing, throwing up and stuff like that.
You'll be out
So
of the
that
race.
balance, that is a challenge for race to nutrition.
And, doing one Ironman is good enough. But after that, saying that I'll go for another Ironman and going for it. So that means once you recovered from Ironman 1, you decided you're going to go for Ironman 2, or before that you had decided that I'm going to go for it again?
When I completed the Ironman, I swore I'll never do an Ironman again.
Yeah.
Because I was fed up. But
and then what happened after
3 months down the line, I started feeling this vacuum in my life that I'm losing focus of what's happening around me. I'm getting back from work and I'm, just on television and social media, and partying and stuff like that. I wasn't feeling happy about it. So I registered. And now I've come to the conclusion that I need to do one Ironman a year at least.
Every year.
I'm waiting for it to reopen. I was looking for one last year.
It wasn't there, and 21 also.
Yeah. So 2022, it's going to happen.
Probably 2022.
Yeah.
It gets addictive. It gets addictive, I'm quite certain.
So now that brings me to my next question. See, 2019, you did an Ironman. 2020, there was no Ironman. 2021, no Ironman. Now, how does Vikram Dogra keep fit for Ironman 2022? And when would he begin the training? Because it's already January, birthday has happened. You must have received the gift again. And training hasn't started for 2022.
That's not true. Training has started.
Started. Oh my God. Okay. All right. So tell us now.
I'm training 3 hours a day.
Okay.
And
what all is happening? Sure.
For the cycling part, you really now don't need to go on the road because I have got myself a cycling simulator. It's like, these flying simulators these pilots have.
Yeah. So at home only you have, and they have this traffic coming at you and things happening?
Not only traffic, even the terrain, if there is
terrain
enough,
also.
the thing becomes tougher. If it is downhill, it becomes easier.
Excellent.
So you don't need to go on the road except to get an orientation of your bike. I do a lot of high intensity interval training. In fact, let me tell you, in the next 2 months, I'll have my 6-pack ready. I am 70% there.
Wow.
And I also
we'll follow you on social media. We'll see
it's
it
already
on
on my Instagram. I've given the 70% shot there already.
Sure.
And I took up something called doing the plank. The
planking.
And I have done a 38-minute plank.
Oh my God. Doing
It's
60 seconds is tough.
No, this is 38 minutes. Is there? The full
that's
video is
huge.
there available.
That's huge.
And I'm looking at going for 65 because that's the record of the army.
People doing 3 minutes feel they are doing something great.
Yeah. So that's how I keep fit.
Excellent.
And it shows. And it shows.
Yes,
it shows on Major General's face. Yeah.
Great. Of course.
Fantastic.
Because I wouldn't have expected that after 2019, and I would have asked him nevertheless that you've got to do 3 at least when you did 1.
Hopefully, I can do 1 every year.
That will be great, and we wish you the very best, and we are sure you will do it. And after every Ironman, but you have to promise to come back to this show to share your experiences.
It'll be a pleasure. My pleasure.
So we'll call you. It's not just the TV channels, but this small YouTube channel would also like to have your, presence. Now that brings me to another question about Ironman only. See, Ironman is an expensive affair. And I have seen a lot of people, I know some people abroad who run some fundraising campaigns when they wanted to do Ironman. So how do you fund this? In your case, how do you fund it? You fund it from your own resources or you get sponsors for different things?
No, in my case, I use my own resources. I never even told the army I was going for the Ironman.
Yeah, but see, these swimming gear companies, the cycle companies, they would love to sponsor you.
Yeah, but I didn't give it a shot. I have not approached them as yet. But yes, like you said, it's an expensive sport. Your first Ironman will set you back by about 5 to 6 lakhs.
Yes, I know. It's an expensive sport.
And
then
thereafter,
plus
because
the training and everything else. So the costs are big.
yeah, not only the training, the registration itself is $1,000.
Yes.
So it is expensive, but then people who are passionate about it, I don't think the money really matters.
I agree with you. I agree with you completely.
Yeah,
There are
I know
so
some kids who've been raising funds through public funding.
Yeah, I've contributed to their campaigns.
Yeah,
that's how I remember.
Yeah,
and it's a pleasure seeing them succeed. Complete the circuit.
Absolutely.
So that's great. We've been transported to another world altogether. Now tell us a little more about your activities of the present day. Arun tells me that you're the president of the Kho-Kho Federation.
No, I'm not the president. No. I am the CEO.
CEO, yeah, he told me CEO. That's what he said. So tell us a little more about that and about your TEDx and motivational talks.
Okay, I'll start first with the Kho-Kho. Kho-Kho today is no more the Kho-Kho that we knew when we were young. It's not played on, on soil. There is synthetic courts, specialized equipment. A lot of, we are now running the camp. We're running the national camp currently in Faridabad with 124 athletes. We have the national games coming up in April. So we are using all sports science to analyze their bodies, their muscle structures,
and how they move.
Yeah, and give corrective training to them. So April we have, like I said, the nationals. Then we have the India Premier League. It's called Ultimate Kho-Kho. The rights have been purchased by Dabur for 20 years. Very nice. It's on the same lines as the cricket. The players are going to be auctioned.
Kabaddi, football, cricket.
Yeah. So it's a big thing coming up. And then we have national games, Asian games and world games. You'd be surprised to know 34 countries play Kho-Kho.
Wow.
And we hope
we neglect Kho-Kho.
Sorry?
We neglect Kho-Kho a lot. We don't even think about it.
Yeah, but after the Premier League, you will find it to be the number 2 game after cricket.
Excellent.
And we hope to overtake it. So that's as far as Kho-Kho is concerned. And as far as my TED Talks are concerned, I did a TED Talk in 2019, the first one.
In Pune?
It was in Calcutta, Chaurangi.
Calcutta, okay.
Yeah, and my topic was drop the past and walk the present.
Beautiful.
Actually, it was my story, and I wanted to share it with people, and it got a good response. And then I did one last year in October again in Dehradun. This time, this was to do with the enigma of mental endurance. Because I learned a lot about mental endurance during my journey of doing the Ironman. And I felt that there were things I could share with people on how they can build mental endurance, how important it is. Like I said, the battle needs to be fought in your mind first. And that is the most important battle. And that's what my second talk was about. So these are the 2 TED Talks I did.
And what about your motivational speaking that you do?
Well, I do a lot of that for schools, colleges, recently for some corporate houses also. In fact, there was a time when I was doing almost 3 talks a day. And since my talks are pro bono, people reach out and ask me to come, and it's a pleasure to talk to them. And if I can inspire people even, a bit, it gives a lot of satisfaction.
Yeah, that's what you're doing today also. Through this show, we are doing exactly that. So now tell me, about motivation. I find that motivation and motivational talks, they actually work in a big way, but then the effects don't last for long on too many people. I say that if I'm going to speak to 1,000 people, and if there's one soul there which gets kindled or excited or ignited, I think I've made a difference. True. But how can we actually make a difference to more people? Because people appreciate, people clap, people feel happy, people write on social media, but then the implementation part does not really happen for a large number of people.
I feel
So we as motivators, what should we do?
I feel it is the same way, you can take a horse to the water.
Horse to the water, that's right.
Drink.
Absolutely.
So, but if you can take 100 horses and even a few of them have a drink, then I think
that's what I said. Even if one of them has a drink, I'm happy.
Yeah. And I feel a lot of people actually get a cue from, your journey, even if it's something innocuous to you. They number of times people tell me, you said that clicks. And it triggered something off.
Something
and
clicks,
now I'm following this, I'm doing that, like that.
A chota, click also matters.
Bilkul.
Any small difference that happens.
And also the people who watch your talk, if they're interested, only then they'll watch it. Others, like you said, will put a like and, say, fantastic.
Yeah, they'll feel energized maybe for a day, maybe for an hour, maybe a couple of days, and then it all goes away.
Yeah.
So it's all to do with their own mind.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of young people are not mentally very tough these days. And, suicides were there in our days as well. But even today they continue, and sometimes for very flimsy reasons. So how can we, what can we do to toughen them up as parents and as motivators?
So the way you can work on your body and get physical endurance, you can use simple tools for even developing mental endurance. And the first tool which I feel we can all use is to connect whatever we are enduring with a bigger purpose in our life. If we can give it a purpose, like if you can link it to why is it important in your life, whatever you're doing, which is difficult. So you may be chasing a dream, you may be aspiring for, say, Ironman or a marathon, or you looking at some kind of a job which requires a lot of hard work to get there. If you link that with this purpose, then it becomes easier to endure, because you will find that your mind will be galvanized to endure it.
I fully understand what you're saying. Connect life and everything that you do to a higher aim, higher purpose.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So that you don't feel this is the end.
Also, you don't feel that it is a fatigue.
Yeah.
When we talk of endurance, it is always linked with something unpleasant. Yes. Because you don't endure something which is joy.
Otherwise, it's not endurance.
Yeah. Otherwise, you don't endure. You enjoy it.
Yeah. Otherwise, it's not endurance.
Meditation is another great way. If you can meditate. And in my journey, when I did the Ironman, I came onto a technique of meditation while running.
Okay.
So there's a conventional technique of meditating in a room where you may be sitting with a flame and focusing on that, or chanting or whatever else. But I discovered accidentally, I was doing this 35-kilometer run, and after about 30 kilometers, I had severe cramping in my stomach. And I fell on the road. It was a deserted road. I was happy that there's nobody seeing me in this way, but it was severe cramps which lasted for about a minute in my chest and my stomach, some electrolyte imbalance. Thereafter, when I got up, I was unable to run, but I had to do those 5 kilometers. And like I told you, I restricted my runs to 35. So I said, 35 to karna hi hai. I tried to walk, then slowly break into a jog. And I tried to synchronize my breathing with my jogging, 3 steps forward, exhale, 3 steps, inhale. And I found that I could gain a rhythm. But it was forgotten. This was in the month of June. My event was in July. I never paid any more attention. I finished at 5 kilometers and I went home. And thereafter, Austria, event day, I finished my swim. I went for my cycling. I hydrated myself, nourished myself. 150 kilometers into my cycling ride, I was absolutely low on energy. There was 6,000 feet of elevation that we had gained in that 150 kilometers. And the balance 30 kilometers that was left was generally flat, but my eyes started to blur. Even the road was and I started getting, visions of
Oh my
that
God.
I'm going to have to drop out. And that was a panic.
Hmm.
Suddenly, I remembered that day when I had cramped.
These
And
cramps.
yeah, I tried
How
to
you tackle
coordinate
them.
synchronize my pedaling with my breathing, and it started helping. And you'd be surprised, 15 to 20 minutes into this, when I gained some momentum, I got transported. I connected with my mother, who had passed away 5 years earlier. And I could see her face clearly, smiling at me.
She blessed you.
I felt energy coming to me. I had tears streaming down my face, goosebumps. And I finished the
just
30
kept
kilometers. Yeah, I finished them very strong. And that changed the outcome of what would have happened if I had quit.
Yes.
And so when I came back, I researched, I looked around, and I found a lot of athletes had shared this experience of getting meditative while running.
Wow.
So if you synchronize your breathing and your running, you can get meditative. I just brought this in because it is a very interesting facet.
Absolutely. Because see, I
meditating-
think it is that rhythm
Yeah,
which helps you meditate,
absolutely.
getting to that rhythm. Wow, this is wonderful.
Wonderful.
So
Yeah.
meditating in any form is good for endurance.
Yes. Yes.
You can also look at willfully seeking discomfort. Now, that's a strange thing to say because we all seek comfort. But giving you an example, if you go for a shower in winter, don't turn on the hot
Cold
water.
shower. Cold shower.
Cold shower for 1 minute, willingly. So willingly, you face discomfort, you face that cold stream, and that makes your mind stronger. You willfully face things which are difficult. You get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, this
Travel
is
is a
very
great
important.
way. Travel is a great way. Going to
great
new
tip.
places, adventure activities, all
Yes.
that helps to build your
Meet
endurance.
strangers.
Yeah. So anything which you do outside your comfort zone will develop your mental endurance. And then there are many other ways, you can develop your mental endurance. Don't procrastinate. Don't brush things under the carpet. Take them on as they come. It becomes a habit then. Procrastination also becomes a habit.
Yeah, it's a habit.
Yeah. So there are a lot of techniques that you can build your mental endurance.
Excellent.
Very interesting,
Ashok.
General. Very interesting, General Saab. In this corporate world, we talk about corporate rat race, where we find that majority of the people are more interested in trying to see how they can be leading. Be running this race against the others.
True.
But what I take away from what you have been talking so far is if you challenge yourself and not really worry
race
about
is
what
with
the other
yourself.
guy is doing, then it's not a race. It becomes something totally different.
Absolutely.
And
a
your
journey.
success, it's a journey. And I think, challenging yourself is much more important and much more beneficial. And satisfaction comes to you than this stupid thing called rat race.
Exactly. So that's what a lot of people ask me, how did you feel when you did the Ironman? First time, I didn't feel great, to be honest. But the second time, when I beat my own time by 40 minutes, I was ecstatic.
Over the moon.
Yeah, I was over the moon because
Yes.
I felt I had improved.
And it is a great achievement.
Yeah. So that is what I say. I keep telling people, compete only with yourself. And you will find, you will remain quite calm, focused,
Absolutely.
without having to start looking at, the people around you.
And you'll actually be able to give off your best.
Absolutely.
Very
Because
important.
comparisons, yeah, that's very, very important. Now tell me one more thing. Another question comes to my mind. Lots of questions keep coming to my mind. I don't know why. Now, all throughout your prep, you are following your diet regimen and everything, exercise. Can you have that glass of wine while you are prepping for this thing?
Surely.
You can have your glass of wine and a peg of whiskey.
I used to have whiskey, but having said that, I feel 2 months prior to the event, you will be better off if you don't have it because for no reason except that it dehydrates the body. And if you're going to be training in the morning, then hydration is a very crucial factor.
Yes, very, very.
Just for that reason, no other reason. Otherwise, the amount you're training, you can consume anything and everything because everything goes in.
Yeah, because this, brings you to that thing where people say that don't eat this, don't eat that. You can eat everything, but then if you do it sensibly,
Yeah.
and knowing the effects of whatever
Absolutely.
you're doing. Excellent. Yes, Arun Bhai, you've been very quiet. Let me just check the question box. If
I
there are
think
any
Arun has gone to
questions.
sleep with my monologue.
Oh, Arun has loved it. We've all loved it.
So, I'm just wondering that, whether we should actually look at Vikram as a superhuman because, I have never heard such stories about endurance. We've heard small.
Oh, you never heard of them? Of course.
So
40 kilometers here and
in
4
sport-
kilometers there and 180 kilometers there. My God,
Vikram, like I'm
unimaginable.
telling you, we had a principal called Mr. Ganju in school, and his son was training to be an ace swimmer. So Anil Ganju was his name, and he would swim there, for about an hour and a half in the 25-meter pool that we had, and we used to really look at that, with awe. So now the stories that you've been narrating, sound like fairy tales to me right now. The kind of preparation that you've gone through, the kind of stories that you've been sharing that, after 30 kilometers, you really ran into a problem and then you overcame it. So it's amazing. I think if we can even get 5% of an inspiration or motivation from whatever you've shared here. So
That
for
would be
people at our
wonderful.
age, and then, the younger people need to learn so much.
Yes.
You
See,
make us.
Vikram was doing 180 kilometers on a bicycle. In Delhi, if I do 180 kilometers in a day in my car also, I'm feeling tired.
But I also want to say that anybody can do the Ironman. Anybody.
I love that. I love what
provided
you
you
are saying.
train. Provided you
I
train.
love what you are saying because even I believe the same.
Yeah. And I must also share, my wife has also taken up this mission. And for the Goa Ironman, which I went, the half Ironman, I wasn't to do it because I just got back from Hamburg having done the full Ironman. I joined in only because she was participating. And she got dengue 14 days prior to the event, and she had to drop out, and I was left there to do the half Ironman out there. But now she is ready again, and as soon as it opens. So the point I'm trying to make is anybody can do it, provided you work for it.
Yes, provided you work for it. And yeah, so that I think is a very beautiful thought. Now there is a question. Sandeep Grover, my friend, he's an ophthalmologist in the US. So hi Sandeep. Sandeep is saying, just a comment. What a story of grit and endurance and commitment. Salute you. No pun intended. Excellent.
Thank you.
Excellent. So Sandeep Grover is a Hall of Famer here. He's been on the show like Arun, like Ashok.
Atul, I think Commander Sanjeev Raman wanted to join.
I don't know. Sanjeev's not sent me anything. He didn't send me anything. Is he here? He is not here also. I don't know. He might have got busy. So we had two army people on our show earlier. One is Dr. Farooq Siraj. He's from AFMC. And then Commander Sanjeev Raman. He's from the Navy.
Okay.
So now is the time to do a small ceremony. And Vikram, I'm going to add you to the That's Life Hall of Fame. The That's Life Hall of Fame, it consists of all our guests, all the people who've been on the show previously. So now you'll be meeting all of them there in the Hall of Fame. So let me just add Vikram. This is the most pleasurable part of our show. So ladies and gentlemen, congratulations to Major General Vikram Dev Dogra, AVSM, for joining the That's Life Hall of Fame. Vikram, welcome to the Hall of Fame.
Thank you so much.
Welcome, General sir. It is a great pleasure to have you on board.
Thank you.
And Ashok, Arun, everybody is going to be there with you in the Hall of Fame. It's your Hall of Fame. It's not having anything to do with me. I was not made part of Hall of Fame before I became a guest on this show. So the qualification, yes, they made me a guest. 10, 12 of them grilled me for 1.5 hours. After that, I was inducted into the Hall of Fame. So the rules are very strict.
Thank you
And
very
we are
much.
absolutely honored to have Vikram in the Hall of Fame. So if there are no more questions, then it is time to wind up the show. So, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, what a journey that has been shared with us this evening. We were transported to Austria, we were transported to Germany, and I could also see Vikram training in the middle of night and going through so much in order to triumph over one's own limitations. Everything that we do, we are only trying to triumph over our own limitations. And there are no limits to human endurance. Never say, why can't I? You can and you will. And that's also, Vikram, incidentally, a play that I wrote. It's called Why Can't I? I'll share the
Okay.
script with you. I'll send you the play and you could read. It's about endurance. It's about the triumph of a young person over adversities in life. So Vikram has given us some absolutely invaluable lessons from life, how to build yourself into a great human being, how to build yourself into a leader, how to build yourself into somebody whose example others would like to quote. So, our salute to you, Major General Vikram Dev
General sir.
Dogra,
Thank you, sir.
AVSF.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having taken your invaluable time out to be with us. This is just the beginning. We'll be troubling you on more occasions, and we hope you would graciously accept, our requests on those occasions as well, and we'd be willing to adjust our schedules to your schedules. And I would like to wish you the very best. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts. And we would like to also thank Madam Supriya for having spared you on a Sunday evening to be with us, and our best regards and best wishes to her and to your two sons. Our very best wishes and blessings to both of them. And with regards, with our best wishes to you, we say bye bye, and
Thank
it was
you.
a pleasure having you here. And
Bye
we'd
bye,
like to
Vikram. Thanks
connect
for
very
accepting
Thank
our
you.
request.
And thank
Thank
you to
you.
the A-Cube, that is Atul, Arun, and Ashok. Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you so
General.
much.
Interacting with you all.
Salat.
Yeah.
Jai Hind.
Jai
Jai
Hind,
Hind.
All the
General.
best.
Jai Hind. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good
Thanks a
night.
lot.
Good night.
So, ladies and gentlemen, another show, another episode coming to an end today. Next Sunday, another guest, another episode. That's life. Thank you very much and good night. My Oscar also wants to say good night. He's already come on to Papa. He knows the show is ending now, and I take him for a walk. So, thank you very much. Good night. Bye bye.
Good night.